Welcome to this episode of the Harpreet Singh Show. In today's segment, we'll talk to Mr. Doug Tennant. He is the Executive Director of Semiahmoo Society. ये संस्था जो है ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟਲ ਡਿਸੇਬਿਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਜੂਝਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਜੋ ਕੁਝ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਨਾਲ ਕਿ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਣੇ ਆਏ ਹੋਏ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਡਗ ਟੈਨੈਂਟ ਤੋਂ। Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. A little bit about yourself, Doug. How did you get associated with Semiahmoo?
Oh, it's a bit of a long story. So 23 years ago, I met my stepdaughter, who was 3 at the time, and she has Down syndrome. And that changed my life in a lot of ways. At the time, I was managing a bar, and I thought that was perhaps the way that my life would go. And meeting my stepdaughter, Krista, changed things and brought me into the movement called community living. So I worked actually as a frontline staff, supporting people who had young people who had autism and other disabilities. I then became a school teacher and worked in schools for about 17 years. During that time, I had a group of student volunteers who were volunteering at Semiahmoo Society. And through that, I was asked to be on the board. And so I was on the board, and I was the board chair for 10 years, and my term ran out. You're allowed to be reelected 3 times. And so I thought I was pretty much done with Semiahmoo other than volunteering in different capacities.
Right.
But at that time, Paul Wheeler, the longtime executive director, said he was going to retire. And I was approached to be the co-executive director with him, and then the executive director. And after going through a third-party hiring process, I was chosen to be the next executive director. And so I've been working in that position for about 15 months now.
Great. So when we talk about people with developmental disabilities, you talked about autism, you talked about the Down syndrome. What all gets covered under this heading of developmental disabilities?
Yeah, so in the old days, we would have a measurement that was an IQ of 70, and that there were a lot of issues with that, because IQ doesn't really measure ability in a lot of ways. It measures how well you can do at school, which is not how well you can do in life in a lot of ways. So, but it is people who have a significant cognitive disability that makes it that they will need support to be part of the greater community. And that's our job, is basically to support people to be part of the greater community.
So it's been over 50 years since Semiahmoo Society has been serving these people. So what kind of services provided in this organization, which is based in Surrey? Are you just catering to the people from Surrey, or is it widespread and people from anywhere can come and take the services?
Right, so we do support people outside of Surrey, but the majority of the people we work with are Surrey and White Rock. And we have 2 main buildings, one in South Surrey at 24th and 153rd, and the other in Newton. Our services are a wide range. So if you were to think about anything that is a part of your life, where you live, your job, what you like to do for recreation, we support people to do all of those things. And so we have an employment training services where we work with over 90 people, helping them develop the skills necessary to be part of the workforce. And within that, we have a landscaping crews that go and do things such as cleaning the parking lots at the Surrey Hospital and a variety of other places. We have people who are becoming experts in making cards, invitation cards, that we sell for. They do get some training allowance out of that as well. But our goal is always to find employment for that group of people. We also have recreation programs. So we have a rec and leisure program that runs in after school in the evenings, where a lot of people with disabilities, there's sort of an invisible barrier, which is nighttime. So when night comes, during the daytime, if you're out, you probably do see people that have visible disabilities in the malls. In the evenings, because transportation is such a difficult thing for people with disabilities, there aren't very many options. And so at nighttime, people with disabilities quite often are not able to get out. So our Rec and Leisure program, with no government funding, is a program where we have things like a group of 20-year-olds who would like to go to the casino, and we support them to do that with staff as well as transportation, and also they develop really good friendships with each other.
Right.
We also have a personal development program, which is a program that runs during the daytime, where people can pursue things that are going to make them better people in a variety of ways. Things such as Spanish class, geocaching, where volunteering in the community. So a whole variety of things that they need support with to be part of the community. And the people that we support with disabilities have told us over and over again that they want to be part of the community, that they want to volunteer in the community, they want to have jobs, and they want to give back to the community as well.
Right. So basically, what's the support base? From where is the money coming? Is it basically from the government or from the general public? Yeah,
the majority, well, it's the same thing really, isn't it? So the majority of our funding comes from Community Living British Columbia.
Okay.
And they fund the services that we have. Right. And they are funded by the government, yes.
Okay. And do you also have fundraisers and involve the public also for raising money for some activities?
Yeah, absolutely. So our Rec and Leisure program, we fundraise close to $200,000 a year to run it because there is no government support. Right. People who use that program, they do pay fees similar to what you would pay to go to the YMCA or different types of programs like that. But because of the support that's needed, that does not cover our expenses. So with we have some major fundraisers. So we have a Taste of BC's Finest, which is on May 24th this year. It's a great evening where I think the tickets this year are $70 each, where you can come out. It's a wine tasting, but most people actually come for the food tasting. So we have significant restaurants, really great restaurants from Surrey, White Rock area who come and have samples of their food, and believe me, it's great food, and you can certainly fill your belly with the food that's there. Right. And there is also a silent auction and a raffle for a vehicle. We also have a golf tournament in August every year as well.
Wonderful. We'll continue with the discussion. We'll come after the short break and continue as to how people can also get involved, and otherwise, if anybody wants some services to be taken, how they can also be a part of it. After this break, we'll continue with the discussion. So, ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ ਜੋ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੋਈ, ਡਗ ਟੈਨੈਂਟ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਐਗਜ਼ੈਕਟਿਵ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਰ ਹਨ, ਇਹ ਲੰਮੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਤੋਂ ਇਸ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਪਿਛਲੇ 15 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਤੋਂ ਐਜ਼ ਐਗਜ਼ੈਕਟਿਵ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਰ ਉੱਥੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਜੋ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟਲ ਡਿਸੇਬਿਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਤੋਂ ਸਫਰ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਜੌਬਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਕੋਈ ਰਿਕ੍ਰੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਕੋਈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ, ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਜੋ ਉਹ ਮਦਦ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਫੀ ਸਾਰਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਹੈਗੀ ਉਹ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਫੰਡ ਰੇਜ਼ਰਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਪੈਸਾ ਇਕੱਤਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ। 24 ਮਈ ਨੂੰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਹੋਣ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ, ਜਿਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਉੱਥੇ ਫੂਡ ਟੇਸਟਿੰਗ ਅਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਵਾਈਨ ਟੇਸਟਿੰਗ ਦੀ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏਗਾ, ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹਾ ਸੱਦਾ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਰਹੇਗੀ, ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਦ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਸ਼ੋ। Once again, welcome back to the program. ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਡਗ ਟੈਨੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਐਗਜ਼ੈਕਟਿਵ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਰ ਹਨ ਸੈਮੀਆਮੂ ਸੁਸਾਇਟੀ ਦੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਜਿਸ ਨਾਲ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟਲ ਡਿਸੇਬਿਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਸਫਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਦਦ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਆਓ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ। So before the break, as you were mentioning that the kind of services what you are providing, so if you could just tell us in details as to, like, job hunting is for those who are a little bit aged and they are looking for a job in the job market. But what about youngsters also? So is your society catering to the youngsters also?
Yeah, so we work with young people through our Rec and Leisure services. And those would be people from basically age of 12 and up that can access that and come and do things after school and in the evening.
Right.
We actually do have a Peninsula Childcare as well. So we have a daycare center. It's not focused on people with disabilities, but we are very open to having young people who have disabilities come to that daycare center.
Okay. And Doug, how do the people come to know that the kind of service if they want? So where do they go and how do they come to know that Semiahmoo is a place where they can go and get those services?
So most of the contact comes through schools, and schools are very aware that when young people with disabilities are graduating and leaving school, that there needs to be a plan in place of what they're going to do.
Okay.
And through that planning, we are one of the organizations that's talked about, and we quite often have people come and tour our facility.
Right.
We get to know people through our Rec and Leisure program, and nowadays people can choose what services they want. And so we have a fair number of people who are requesting to come to our organization for support when they're adults.
So basically, if we say that, what is your approach to work? Can you elaborate that?
Semiahmoo House approach to work is something called person-centered thinking, which is a philosophy that changes the power dynamic from we being the experts who know what's best for you to you being the person who knows what's best for you. And we brought in that philosophy, I think, about 10 years ago, and we're still continuing to work with it, because it is a shift from the model, which was one of control, you know, safety and making sure that people, and safety is very important, but we also need to listen to the people we support and find out what is it that they want from their lives. And then our question is, how can we support them to be the best that they can be and be the person they want to be? And so that takes a great deal of exploration, talking with people, finding out what they like to do, working with people who don't communicate by speaking, and some of the people we support do not communicate by speaking. It's talking to their families, it's talking to people close to them, and it's communicating with them however they can to find out what is it that they want from their life, and then our job is simple. How do we support them to reach their potential?
As you mentioned in the beginning only that your life changed when you got in contact with your 3-year-old daughter.
Yes.
And what kind of other challenges do families face, and how do you personally, as well as being involved with this society for a long time, what would be your advice to those parents who are having children having these kind of developmental disabilities?
Yeah, and there are a great many challenges, absolutely. Looking at my family, and I have 5 children, I would say that Krista was certainly not the one that had the most, had me staying up late at night, as opposed to perhaps some of my other children, and they're all great now. But the challenges are largely, significant part of the challenges are based on the way that society looks at people with disabilities. And so if you have a child with a disability, quite often that's accompanied with questions like, why me? There might be shame involved. There may be some cultural ideas about the reason why you had a child with disability. Might be based on you thinking that you may have done something in your life that brought this out. All of these, of course, are not true. People are people, and if you have a child with a disability, if you love that child and you expect good things for that child, that's going to be highly, that's going to help. You know, and I'm not, there's great difficulties that come with children that have disabilities, a great heartache that comes. But we need to address the community part of it as well, and educate communities so they understand that there is great potential for people with disabilities, and that if we are open as a community to families that have kids with disabilities, but also to people with disabilities, and we take on that responsibility as community members, that will be one thing that I think will significantly help families that have kids that have disabilities.
Absolutely. Society's response, what you talked about, is very important, because despite all this information what we get, but still when it comes the society's response, it's a little different. Lots of ifs and buts are involved in it. So if that perspective changes, that definitely will help these people who are suffering from these developmental disabilities.
You know, and I have seen that change in the last 23 years, hugely changed.
Right.
When when Krista went into her elementary school as a kindergarten student, she was the first child with a disability at the school.
Right.
And there was a meeting where 300 to 400 parents came out, and there was not the majority at all, but there were a few parents who stood up and said, "This is not going to work.
Right.
I don't want my kids to be with," and you know, very tough conversation. But what happened was the majority of families there said, "No, this will work."
Right.
And so people, my belief is that people are good.
Right.
That with education and knowledge and also interaction. So everyone that Krista's gone to school with, everyone who's been in a school that has been inclusive, where they've had friends or worked with people with disabilities, when they're business owners, when they're adults, they're not going to be shy about working with people with disabilities. They're not going to hang back.
Right.
They're going to, you know, engage. And
Absolutely.
so there's been a big change in the last 20 years with school systems becoming much more inclusive.
Right, Doug, we'll go for a short break, come back, and I would like to know as to how, you know, like this is in all the communities. How are other communities also, are they coming forward, or still that cultural, as you said, the bringing up, that also is an impediment in getting these people the right kind of services which they need. I would like to continue on this particular discussion in our next week segment because these things need to be talked about in details. And as you very rightly mentioned, that society's perspective has to change and is changing also, but still a lot of work needs to be done. Thank you very much for this perspective.
Thanks for having me out here.
So ਅੱਜ ਜੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ, ਡਗ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਸੋਸਾਇਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਸੋਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਡਾਪਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਬੱਚੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਇਹ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟਲ ਡਿਸੇਬਿਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿਰਫ ਵਿਚਾਰੇ ਤੱਕ ਹੀ ਸੀਮਿਤ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਪਰ ਜੇਕਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਰਹਿ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸੋਚ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਗੇ ਲਿਆ ਕੇ ਜੇਕਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰੀਏ ਤਾਂ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਡਗ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਚੰਗੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਕਟਿਵ ਸਿਟੀਜ਼ਨਸ ਬਣ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇसी विषय ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਗਲੇ ਹਫਤੇ ਵੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਸੈਮੀਹਾਮੋ ਸੁਸਾਇਟੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਅਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਸੰਸਥਾਵਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਜੋ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਰੱਬ ਨਾ ਕਰੇ ਜੇਕਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਡਿਸੇਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਦਾ ਸਹਾਰਾ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟ ਲਿਆ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ।